Hello world, my name is Andy Silvers, and today we're going to talk about the cover design nightmare of Solomon Grando versus the Jupiter Witch. Alright, so for those of you who don't know, my contemporary fantasy novel, Solomon Grando versus the Jupiter Witch, is coming out very, very soon. It is a contemporary fantasy book. It is a chapter book for adults and teens. It does have some inappropriate content, but no more than a PG-13 film. But it is coming out very, very soon, probably around October 1st. So it definitely is early October. And while the book doesn't actually take place during Halloween, the idea that it has magic and vampires and witches and monsters in it actually does sort of fit with Halloween in a certain sense. So I think that's a really great time for it to come out. And the book will be available on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, and most major book-selling retail websites. So it'll be available in ebook, hardcover, and paperback. I suspect the hardcover will take the longest to release, but the ebook and paperback will be out very shortly on Amazon, and the hardcover will be available as well. It looks like the final pricing is going to be $6, I think $5.98 for the ebook, $13.98 for the paperback, and $18.98 for the hardcover. Also, if you have younger kids, be sure to check out my two children's books, Red Sprites and Blue Jets, which has a 4.9 out of 5 stars, and my most recent children's book, The Very Colorful Caterpillar, for ages 3 to 6. They are both wonderful books, so please check them out. So basically, I began writing the book back in December, although technically it was closer to January, because December of 2020 was mostly just ideas. There was no writing at that point except for maybe writing down ideas. So it was in the spring of 2021 that I began the book cover design in earnest. I was still in college. In fact, I was a senior in college and I was about to graduate. And at the time, I was working on my now award-winning short film Snapshot. And I was also doing book covers. So it was really interesting to see all the students around me spending every waking moment on their thesis film, and me trying to do a thesis film and write a book. And it was a challenge, but I think it was a worthwhile challenge. It's something that a lot of professionals do. Professionals typically, and I say creative professionals, typically don't work on one thing at a time. They're typically they have their hands in a lot of different baskets. They're working on this project and that project, and I found myself in that boat. So when it comes to the Solomon Grando book cover, it was a long and arduous journey to get to the now final book cover design. So here's basically some of the story. I wanted to do the book cover myself, and in the end, I actually ended up doing it myself. I would not recommend to most authors to do a book cover yourself because unless you're a really talented artist, you're probably going to have difficulty with the cover. And I technically am not a really talented artist, but I was able to take the skills that I do have for graphic design and target them and tailor them to really meet the book's needs. So the very first idea I came up with was to have Solomon on the cover facing away from the viewer with a knife behind his back. And I was going to make it a relatively modern sort of cover with sort of simple sort of hexagon symbols, or actually I think it's pentagon symbols, because of course pentagons are associated with magic, and so I wanted to do that for the cover. So I was in college, and I was literally working on both my film and the book cover sort of intermittently between the few months that I was there. And it was a difficult process, but in all honesty, I got the first cover design done relatively quickly. But it was an odd process. So one story is the story of how I actually created Solomon Grando himself standing on the cover. So basically, I have a friend who I went to college with who is looking to become an ophthalmologist. And basically, I had him stand outside because I needed good lighting on the lawn at the school that I was at, and I had him hold an actual knife behind his back while dressed up, largely how Solomon dresses up in the book. Although actually how he dresses up is more in line with how Solomon sort of used to dress up, because this is another problem that I'll get to later. But basically, people said his design was a little too simplistic and he kind of looked like a church pastor. Anyway, the point is, I had my friend stand out on the front lawn, one of the lawns of Liberty where a lot of the student dorms are. And you can see him in this picture here. And I had him wearing something very similar to Solomon's original costume design, and I had him in the correct pose and everything. And of course, it was probably a really awkward experience for him because he's not exactly a professional model, and for him to be outside in public with students walking around next to the dorms with windows and people looking, probably seeing him just standing out there holding a knife behind his back and me taking a picture, it's got to be a little bit weird. But I appreciate that he was willing to help me out with this. So thank you for that. If you're watching this video, you're the best. So anyway, I took that picture of him, and I guess you could say I digitized it. And again, one of the reasons I had to take a picture of him is because I'm not actually that good of an artist. So you can't just say, draw a person who looks like this, and I just draw it. It just doesn't work like that. I'm terrible at drawing. And so basically, I created a digital version using the picture of him as a reference. So here is a very early mock-up of the book cover. This is not final, but it is an early mock-up of what I wanted it to look like. And then I gradually added more elements and gave it a more consistent look in terms of textures and design. And finally, this was right here, what was going to be roughly the final design for the book. Now, there is one person who said that they really liked it, but the problem with this is that I had a lot of people say this book cover was no good. So the problem that people were citing was that apparently the book cover looked like it was for middle schoolers, and it also looked like a murder mystery, which that part in particular I do see. I don't necessarily agree 100% with the middle schooler claim, but this is the thing about professionals in the entertainment industry. They almost always have sort of sample groups, or they have not control groups, but they have testers, people who test things and look at things. So I know a lot about filmmaking because I have a degree in it, so I can tell you that what a lot of filmmakers will do, or film studios really, is they'll have a select group of people do an advanced screening or an audience screening of a film or a portion of a film, and to get feedback, very detailed feedback. And this helps them to correct errors and issues that they don't even foresee before the film is actually released. And I did that same thing with this book cover. I had people look at it, and people would tell me that it was professional looking, but not quite what the book seemed like it was actually going to be. It doesn't seem representative of the actual story and characters. So I went back to the drawing board, and at the drawing board, I came out with the idea to basically hire an actual professional to do at least one or two major components of the book cover. And that major component was the witch. So the title gives it away. There's obviously a witch in the book. Her nickname is the Jupiter Witch, and her real name is Helena Krell. And I wanted to have her on the book cover. I hire this artist, and it's a she. I won't tell you exactly who it is, but it is an artist on Fiverr, and I asked her to create digital artwork for me for my book cover. And she is very talented, but the problem is that the artwork she delivered just did not fit at all what I was going for. Basically, I wanted her to look vaguely like the actress Helen Mirren, and I actually sent the artist a picture of Helen Mirren for reference. Well, long story short, this is version 1 of the artwork. Again, the artist is clearly very talented, but this does not at all fit what I'm looking for. And I would argue the single biggest problem is age. So this female witch, who does look like a witch, I would say, but this character looks like she's probably 18 years old maybe, which is the opposite of what I wanted, because the witch character in the book is in her 50s. I think she's 56 or something. So she's supposed to look a little bit more towards the Helen Mirren spectrum. And clearly she does not. So I tried to salvage the situation by giving my artist some feedback. And I'll show you the final version that my artist sent me with the updates and or feedback. So here it is. You can see the hair was fixed, the dress was altered a little bit, and that's mostly all that was altered, because I didn't want to send my artist spending weeks trying to redo things and fix things. I didn't feel like that was professional or beneficial to either of us. So you can see this is the final design. The character still looks like she's 20. And the dress, I didn't mention it earlier, but it looks a lot like a prom dress. It's very pretty, but it doesn't fit at all what I was going for. And I did not really intend for this much of the character's arms to be visible. It just doesn't fit, because remember, she's supposed to be like 57. So a lot of 57-year-old women are not going to wear a dress quite like that. And so in the end, I ultimately had to discard this design completely and not use it anywhere in the book. The feedback that I got about this artist's work from a friend was basically that while the artist is clearly talented, she's not the greatest at taking instruction. So here's the thing. I picture artists, all of the artists out there, like the YouTuber Jazza, or it used to be called Draw with Jazza. He's on YouTube. He has over 1 million subscribers. You should check out his art videos and his challenges. They're really fun. But anyway, I picture artists like that. And why do I say that? Well, because I've seen his videos, and I know that he can do almost anything. You give him clay, he can make something great. You give him colored pencils, something great. Just you give him, a full, canvas, and you say he has to use 3 colors, and he'll make something great. You say that he has to draw, with his eyes closed, and he'll still figure out a way to make something great. And that's what I picture. But it's not just that. It's also different styles. He can do all sorts of things. He could even do 2D animation. He could just do anything. At least that's what it seems like. And that's what I pictured all artists being like. But that's not actually the case. A lot of artists are good at one thing. So I did look at some samples from this artist on Fiverr, but I didn't, I guess, conclude from the samples that this artist was only good at one thing. Now, my friend told me that it was obvious. My friend said it was obvious this artist was a children's artist, quote unquote, that she would be great for making book covers for children's books, but not necessarily adult books. And I'm starting to see that that is, in fact, the case. Either way, I was now stuck yet again without a book cover. So here I am back to basically square one, trying to figure out what to do. So again, I'm not really that talented of an artist, but I really wanted to still somehow incorporate the witch into the final design. So I thought maybe I can do it myself. So I began the process of attempting to create a sort of digital representation of the witch more in line with my original vision. And here is the book cover that I came up with. So this is not, this is like the second to last version with the witch in it, I think. And this is my version of the witch. Now, this witch doesn't look perfect, but for someone who's not an artist, I think it looks pretty good. And this did not end up making the final cover, as you know. But it looks pretty good, and it is definitely an interesting design. And in case you're wondering who the model for this is, it's actually my mom. So I don't know how she feels about that, but I appreciated the help. Anyway, and I'll show you now this right here. Where is it? Let's see. This right here is the sort of final design, but final design with the witch in it. A friend suggested they did not like the green background behind the witch, even though I liked it, but whatever. So, this is the second to final design with the, no, this is the final design with the witch in it. And it looks pretty good, but there was just something about it that didn't quite work for me. So, I turned to Amazon and looked at a bunch of book covers, and ultimately concluded that what seems to be very popular right now is simplicity. Creating covers that are relatively simple and straightforward and don't have tons of extraneous little details. Sometimes they do that, but not often. So I ended up going back to the drawing board yet again and created this cover right here, which, as you can see, has a very simplistic green background and relatively straightforward design language. Now, I still really like this cover, and I really want to use a version of this for something. Maybe if I make a large print version of the book, I may use this cover or this cover design just because I really like it, even though I recognize that others don't. This is something that you're going to get. People just have their opinions, and you have to be careful to try not to be offended, like it's a personal attack, even though sometimes it's easy to do that. But anyway, this cover I really liked, and people said they liked it, but they said it just wasn't quite right. So I continued with the simplistic design language, and I ended up going with a purple background yet again, because purple made sense because purple is the color of death. And so there is a degree of death with a virus in the book that is starting to kill people, and it made sense. And of course, the witch being sort of dangerous, it also made sense. So ultimately, this right here is the final cover design. And as you can see, I ended up going with purple because of the death relationship that it has, and yellow because if you know anything about color theory, yellow and purple are opposites. I believe that makes them complementary colors, and so they pop really, really well, and they work really well in designs. And so this is the final design. I didn't want to just have the words, so I added a graphical element of the little vial that hangs around the witch's neck that holds a small little dose of the potion. And so, and it's also book 1 in the trilogy. So this is the final book design. So all in all, I lost roughly $27, which is actually surprisingly low. I've heard of people losing hundreds of dollars on book designs because, not just the book cover, but even the book interior, because they're just new to it. And I'm new to it as well. I'm not a professional at this point. I want to tell you that I am self-published right now. In the future, I may not be. But right now I am. And if you're traditionally published, your publisher will pay for the book design. And they probably know a list of artists they can go to who are ready and capable. And they know what they're good at. They know what they're not good at. So that's just what I wanted to say about the book cover design. It was a nightmare and a challenge. I am looking probably to make the book cover myself yet again for the Solomon Grando sequel, going along and continuing this sort of simple design language. So that is the story of the book cover for Solomon Grando versus the Jupiter Witch. This book is coming out very, very soon, like literally early next month in October of 2021. So please get ready for that. Make this a birthday or Christmas gift for someone or for yourself. It is a really good book. It is exciting. It is inspiring. It is comedic. It has heart. Not a lot of romance in this one, but there's everything else. It's very much like a Marvel movie in terms of tone. And so I think that if you like those movies, you'll really like this book. And of course, I will be doing more videos in the future talking about the book, and I will talk about the writing process, because that's probably what a lot of you want to know about, because many of you are probably aspiring authors or current authors. And so I want to delve a little bit more into that in the future, but I want to wait till the book is released, of course, so that you have the opportunity to read it. So, thank you for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.